Welcome to Know Your Candidate podcast. This is an opportunity for candidates from across Tauranga City wards to tell their stories, their experiences, their reasonings in their own words. A format which gives them more than the public debates and profiles that you've seen already. An opportunity for the voter, the ratepayer, future resident to get to know who you want leading the city and, importantly, are they capable of doing so? Anne Pankhurst, a previous business owner, councillor and political junkie, will find out more why the candidates want to run, where they have come from, what they're going to do. So let's not wait anymore. Let's go.
Hi, Sarah Jane. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Anne. How are you?
Great. So this is Sarah Jane Bourne from the Arataki ward, and welcome to our Know Your Candidate podcast series. Our format today is to take the opportunity for a longer, more conversational approach so you, the candidate, can speak and share your own aspirations for the city. We'll take about 20 to 30 minutes answering pre-prepared questions of which you have no idea what they are. The most important aspect of this election is that you vote, and certainly your demographic vote. Democracy works when we all engage, actively take part, learn about our candidates, understand what is important to us for the future of the city. So remember to follow our Know Your Candidate podcast series on thepodhub.com. We ask you to share it amongst your channels as well. And Sarah Jane, we're often up and running. Can you give us a rundown on yourself? Who are you? Children? No children? What have you done in the past? Give us that brief bio on yourself.
So I'm Sarah Jane Bourne. I don't have any children. Let's start there. So as you've said, I am standing in the Arataki ward. I've spent 20 years of my life in the Arataki area. So it's a place that I still call home and I'm very, very passionate about. I am currently a councillor for the Tauranga ward of Matamata District Council. So I bring that current governance experience with me. And I think that this election is such an exciting opportunity to see Tauranga move forward in what I'm hoping will be the right direction.
So I'm going to ask a question that I'm sure that most of the viewers would want to know. Assume for a moment that you win the ward seat and you become a councillor at Tauranga City Council. What will you do with your other role over Matamata Piako?
So this is something that I sought information on before standing. While I can technically hold 2 seats at one time, I don't think that would be fair to the residents of Arataki and Tauranga. So I would resign from Matamata Piako. There would be a slight overlap to avoid a by-election because the cost of a by-election wouldn't be fair to the residents of Matamata Piako. It's just an insane cost.
Okay, so that covers that one off because I'm sure you've been asked, and I'm sure that it's, as they say, transparency is important, so it's understanding what that is. And I agree the cost of any by-election is prohibitive, really, for a council because it falls on them. So what I'm going to ask, and I think you've probably answered some of it in the previous answer, is have you had previous governance roles? And if so, what would have been the biggest budget you have worked with?
So, as I've just said, I am currently a councillor with Matamata Piako. So we are a lot smaller than Tauranga. So we are dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars rather than billions of dollars. But the issues that all councils face are still the same.
They are indeed. So have you had any other governance roles apart from that councillor role?
So I have also stood on various volunteer boards as well.
Right. Okay. Can you tell me what your experience, or have you had any experience of working with or inside of Tauranga City Council?
I haven't had any experience working inside or with Tauranga City Council.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you have had local government experience, which I think is important. So this is probably heaven sent. This next question is heaven sent for somebody in your present role. What do you consider the main role of the mayor and councillors of a city to be?
They're the voice of the community. They're the ones that are taking back their community's voices and ensuring that they're applied when making the decisions around the table.
Cool. And you don't, that's a good answer. There's nothing else you want to add in there?
I think another thing is it's really important that the mayor and councillors stick to the governance side of council and not blur in towards that operational side, because that can be problematic. And I think in Tauranga City we have seen that in the past as well.
Thank you. Now, the skills that I would love to drill down on is the ability and experience in managing complex commercial and political environments. What do you think is your ability and experience in that area?
So I am a qualified RMA hearings commissioner. I know commissioner is a scary word, but in this case, it's very different to the commissioners that Tauranga has here. So when it came to doing that qualification, there is quite a bit of governance training involved and also conflict resolution training. I have also worked in the financial and also the retail sectors. So with that, there is also a lot of conflict resolution there too.
Certainly is, especially when the price is too much or there's a hole in something.
Yeah.
So funding for the huge infrastructure spend is one of the biggest issues facing the city. What would your solution be, or some solutions would be for that?
I think it's really important that we start doing business smarter. We need to be working with our neighbouring councils. We also need to be working with local industry leaders in the private sector. And we really do need to be working with government agencies, the likes of Kāinga Ora, NZTA, to ensure that we're all on the same part and we can get the job done especially with better financial results.
Right. Given that you govern at large, but are standing in the Arataki ward, how do you see collective action when it's not what you think your ratepayers or some of your ratepayers would want? And how do you manage that conflict between what you need to do and what your ratepayers want you to do?
There's always a hard one, because sometimes around the council table we're privy to more sensitive information that the community at large aren't always privy to. So I think it's really important that at the end of the day, we're all collectively making, while not necessarily a popular decision, they are the right decision. And that we can stand there and wholeheartedly defend the decision we've made.
And how would you translate that to your community if you're, I'm going to use the word, disappointed them in your decision making?
I think it's just a matter of communicating with them, giving them the reasons why it was necessary to make the decision that they weren't necessarily happy with. No matter what decision you make on council, you're never going to please everyone. But so long as you can stand there and front up with the reasons why you made that decision, I think it's important.
So I'm interested in your reaction to the view that Tauranga is a critical part of New Zealand Inc. and its growth. So we have to think more nationally than locally, because what happens here in the city matters. So what's your reaction to being to that?
So, I mean, we are essentially a part of that golden triangle. We have a direct link to Hamilton and also to Auckland. So it is really important that we are collectively not just working within the Bay of Plenty, but also the wider Waikato as well, to ensure we can all link and provide a lot better service economically for our areas.
Yep, fine. Now, how do you manage multiple competing interests such as reasonable rates, new funding models, infrastructure deficit? How do you intend to choose between investing in growth, which is critical in the city and the region, versus rate relief?
We are never going to have 0% rate increases. That's the reality. And that's the reality all across the country. It's not exclusive to Tauranga. We do need to find a better balance where growth is paying for growth. It is becoming harder and harder to put the impacts and the costs of growth onto ratepayers. There definitely does need to be a better way of rating for that growth. But the reality is, again, it's doing business smarter. So working with other organisations to ensure that the impact isn't solely on our ratepayers.
So do you think that there are other options about how rather than rating for growth, because you've made that clear, what would some of your other solutions be for that?
So, I mean, the government does have quite a few tools that we can use. So I believe Tauranga has already used a couple of them. So there is the rent to build. And I believe there are a few others that will be introduced. I know we can't solely rely on them. But we do definitely need to be using every tool that we have in the toolkit.
And where do you see central government in that?
So, I know central government's purse strings are relatively tight as well, but it's a matter of working with their agencies, the likes of Climate Order, NZTA, and the others, to ensure that, to bring them on board as well. And keep lobbying central government as well. That's a big role that local government needs to play too.
And what specifically in the council, whose role is that, do you think?
It is the councils at large, but it's predominantly the mayor as well. They're the ones that generally attend a lot of the meetings with the ministers and central government agencies.
So can you give me an example of previous leadership role where you didn't achieve what you'd hoped for from the role, and how you dealt with failure and what were the lessons that you learned?
That's a tough question.
You've been told that a bit today.
I guess I can relate it back to a decision that was made recently in our LTP in Matapiako. So I always had concerns about the spa redevelopment and investment in Te Aroha. While there was there were a lot of strong support for it, there was also a lot of strong opposition to it. I voted not to invest $5 million, which obviously was on a smaller scale than the $38 million that was originally proposed. So I voted against it. I lost that vote. I did get a bit of backlash from the community, which can be hard. But again, as I said earlier, I was able to stand there and tell people why I voted against it. And it, wasn't that I don't want to see anything happening in Te Aroha. It was more that I wasn't certain that it would actually have the desired result.
So one of the things that you brought up earlier that I'm now giving you a chance to this is an individual question. You used the phrase working with other councils. So I'm presuming you mean in the Western Bay, or do you think that is a wider connection? And what would your solution, particularly in the Western Bay, be?
So absolutely with the Western Bay. I mean, they encompass Tauranga City.
I mean, the Western Bay is the district, not...
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah,
but a bit of a challenge, that one, isn't it?
it is. So it's definitely the Western Bay. Also the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. Too often we in local government tend to work in silos. And we are all essentially doing the same core business. So there are a lot of opportunities, whether it's negotiating roading contracts, waste management contracts, even water services. There are a lot of opportunities there to combine and negotiate for a better service rate.
And amalgamation's not on your.
I have been asked that. So amalgamation at this stage is not on my radar. I absolutely support aggregation of services, but amalgamation at this stage, no.
Okay. So, Sarah Jane, we've come to the end of the interview, and I wish you the best of luck for the upcoming election. Again, remember to vote, remember to engage in particularly your demographic, as the city is about you and your future. And to share this podcast on your own social media and your own campaign, and to follow us on the podhub.com. And best of luck and have a cracker day.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Have a good day.
Tune in to the next episode of Know Your Candidate to be informed on who you want to run your city. Got feedback and like to comment your thoughts on the episode? Connect with Know Your Candidate on social. This has been the podhub.com experience. Check out the podhub.com for other podcasts and how you can even do your own.